Let me be clear about something before I begin. I am an historian. I have documented 47 first contact events, the collapse of 2 interstellar empires, and the Great Thrwen and Butter dispute of 2287, which lasted 6 years and somehow cost more lives than the war before it. I do not get emotional about my work. I am a professional. What follows is a professional account. Any lapses in professional tone are entirely the fault of the human in question. Vayara 9 was, at the time of these events, the crown jewel of galactic cooperation. A space station the size of a small moon, housing representatives from 63 species, operating as the central hub of the Galactic Cooperative Council. Communication systems so advanced that 11 different languages could be translated simultaneously across a room. Bioluminescent panels lining every corridor to assist the Shallith delegates. Sonic modulators for the Vreth. Chemical dispersion nodes for the Olundi, who communicate entirely through smell, which, I will note, makes council meetings genuinely challenging for everyone else. Every species had been considered. Every communication need had been accommodated. Every species, that is, except the humans, who had been invited somewhat reluctantly after their third formal application and who showed up communicating exclusively through noise made by pushing air past soft tissue in their faces. Mouths. They call them mouths. The first human crew assigned to Vayara 9 were maintenance engineers. The Council, in its infinite wisdom, decided that if they had to let humans on board, they could at least make them useful with a wrench. Among them was one Cale Torres, age 31, from a place on Earth called New Monterey, who arrived on the station with 3 bags of personal belongings, a thermos of something he called coffee, and the unshakable confidence of a species that had never once been told it was communicating incorrectly. He was, by every measurable alien standard, an oddity. He talked constantly. He laughed at things that were not funny. He laughed at things that were not even finished yet, anticipating the funny part before it arrived. He made a sound with his mouth when he was thinking. A sort of low hum. The collective hive mind spent 2 weeks trying to decode it before concluding it was meaningless, which was correct. Every alien on Vayara 9 gave Cale Torres a wide berth. Not out of hostility. Simply out of the reasonable desire not to be caught in whatever noise event he was currently generating. He had no idea. He just kept going. Now. VWSS. VWSS was a Shallith. The Shallith are a remarkable species, tall and elegant, their skin capable of producing cascading patterns of light in hundreds of frequencies. They speak in color. Greetings are a warm amber pulse. Gratitude is a soft blue ripple starting from the shoulders. Laughter, apparently, looks like gold fracturing at the edges. I would not know personally. VWSS was born with dead light nodes. All of them. A genetic condition so rare the Shallith medical community had documented fewer than 20 cases in 3 centuries. She produced nothing. No pulse, no ripple, no flicker. Her skin was the same dark iridescent gray from the moment she woke to the moment she slept, and in a species that communicates entirely through light, that meant one thing. She was, socially, invisible. Not literally invisible. You could see her standing there. The problem was that seeing a Shallith produce no light pattern is, to another Shallith, the equivalent of looking at a blank wall and expecting conversation. The neural response is simply not triggered. They look. They look away. They move on. Other species on Vayara 9 did not even get that far. With no bioluminescent pattern to trigger the translation matrix, no chemical signal, no sonic output, VWSS generated 0 readable communication data. The station's social infrastructure, that magnificent achievement of galactic cooperation, had precisely nothing to say to her. She had been assigned to Vayara 9 4 years prior. A background maintenance role, filing atmospheric reports that a console could have generated automatically. She ate in the corridor alcoves because the mess hall communication noise gave her headaches she could not explain to anyone. She moved through the station like a ghost that the haunted house had simply forgotten to brief. 11 years without a real conversation. The Galactic Cooperative Council, which had spent centuries perfecting the art of communication, had built a masterpiece that worked for everyone except the one person standing quietly in its corridors every single day. Outstanding work, everyone. Cale Torres nearly ran a supply cart into VYSS on a Tuesday. He came around the corner of Corridor 7 with the cart at a speed that was technically within regulations but spiritually reckless, saw her, and stopped so hard the cart skidded sideways and clipped the wall instead. He said sorry. Out loud. With his mouth. He said it immediately and genuinely, and then, instead of moving on the way every other being on the station did, he stopped and looked at her properly. She was waiting for him to look through her. They always looked through her after the first glance. He did not look through her. He tilted his head and said, in that chaotic noise language of his, something that translated roughly to, "Are you all right? You look like you are having a rough one." She stared at him. He appeared to take this as an invitation to introduce himself, because he stuck out one of his 5-fingered hands and said his name and then smiled, which on a human is a retraction of the lips to show the teeth, and on any other species would be a threat display, but which apparently means something entirely different when done by something that runs on caffeine and goodwill. VYSS did not respond. She could not respond. She had no mechanism he should have been able to understand. Cale Torres nodded as if she had said something perfectly reasonable, told her it was nice to meet her, retrieved his cart, and went on his way. She stood in the corridor for quite a long time afterward. He kept showing up. This is the part that defies explanation. Every other being on the station had received no social data from VYSS and had filed her under, irrelevant, move on. Cale Torres received no social data from VYSS and filed her under, interesting, return tomorrow. He talked. She could not answer. He talked anyway. He pointed at things and named them, which she gradually understood was not condescension but simply how he processed being alive. He noticed when she turned her head slightly towards something he said. He noticed when her posture shifted. He noticed when she was tired, which she had not known was visible, and he adjusted accordingly, kept his voice quieter, stopped filling every silence. A species with no telepathy. No chemical receptors. No bioluminescent translation matrix. Reading her better after 4 days than beings who shared her evolutionary branch had managed in 4 years. I am trying very hard to maintain a neutral historical tone here. On a Thursday, 11 days after the cart incident, Cale Torres sat down across from VYSS in the corridor alcove where she ate alone, set down his thermos of burnt anxiety, and slid something across the floor to her. It was a board. Roughly 30 centimeters square. Made from a panel he had clearly removed from somewhere it was probably still needed. On it, he had attached small tiles with simple images. A smiling face. A frowning face. A shrug that he had apparently drawn himself, which looked more like a melting figure but communicated the intent. Yes. No. Hot. Cold. Tired. Hungry. Good. Bad. Again. He tapped it with one finger and looked at her. She looked at the board. She looked at him. She looked at the board again. She pointed to yes. Cale Torres made a sound that I can only describe as a human victory noise. A short, sharp exclamation delivered with both fists briefly raised. He then immediately composed himself, cleared his throat, and pointed to the smiling face tile with an expression of academic inquiry, as if he had not just celebrated in front of her like someone who had scored a goal. She pointed to the smiling face. He pointed to the again tile. She pointed to yes. 60 species. Centuries of galactic civilization. Translation matrices processing 11 languages simultaneously. And it took one engineer from New Monterey and a panel he definitely stole from a maintenance console to give her a conversation. They met every day after that. Through the board, over weeks, she told him things. That she liked the cold. That she had been on the station for 4 years. That she was good at mathematics. That she had not had a conversation in 11 years before him, which she communicated by pointing to again and then holding up 11 fingers twice and shaking her head, and he understood immediately and went very quiet for a moment and then said, quietly, that he was sorry, and that she would not have to go back to that. He said it the way humans apparently say things they mean. Without ceremony. Just as a fact he was stating. He taught her hand signals after that. A mix of real signing he half remembered from a cousin and signals he invented in the moment, which he would then immediately forget and have to reteach, which she found, though she had no way to express it yet, extremely funny. She learned faster than him. Considerably faster. He told her this was embarrassing and that she should please slow down for his dignity, and she signed NO with great deliberateness, and he laughed until the thermos fell over. The council session happened 6 weeks in. Resource allocation debate. Atmospheric processing units for the outer rings. VYSS was present as a background aide, sitting against the wall, invisible as always. She had spotted an error in the baseline atmospheric data 3 weeks prior, a miscalculation in the Sector 4 projections that would send resources to the wrong location entirely. She had no way to flag it. She had filed a written report that had been processed by an automated system and filed without being read. Kale was in the corner fixing a relay console that had been misfiring for a month. When the council presenter displayed the Sector 4 projections, VYSS looked at Kale. He looked back. She signed to him. Quickly, clearly, the signs they had built together over 6 weeks. He understood every word. He stood up from the console. In a room full of Galactic representatives. With his thermos still in one hand. And he said, out loud, with his mouth, that he needed to stop the session because there was an error in the data, and that the person who had found it was sitting against the back wall, and her name was VYSS. Every head in the room turned to look at the blank wall at the back. Then they looked slightly lower. Then they saw her. The elder Shalath, Counselor Dravath, who had written her off at age 6 and had walked past her in these very corridors for 4 years, looked at VYSS as if seeing her for the first time. Which, in every way that mattered, he was. VYSS corrected the data. Through Kale, signing, with him translating aloud in that ridiculous noise language. The council listened. The correction was significant. The session was redirected. Afterward, Counselor Dravath approached Kale privately and asked how he had noticed her when no one else had. Kale shrugged and said she looked lonely. Dravath said that was not a measurable or logical observation. Kale said yeah, humans were funny like that, and walked away to find VYSS and ask if she wanted to eat lunch somewhere other than the corridor alcove for once. She signed NO out of habit and then immediately changed it to yes. I am VYSS. I am writing this 11 years after that Tuesday in Corridor 7. I am currently a senior data analyst for the Cooperative Council's Atmospheric Division. I have a translated communication interface, one that I helped design, which converts my touch inputs to sonic output in 12 languages. I have colleagues who speak to me. I have, on one memorable occasion, been asked to address the full council. Kale Torres retired to Earth 2 years ago. We exchange messages every week through the translation device. He still cannot remember half the hand signs he invented. I remind him. He sends back the human symbol for laughter, which is a collection of letters that spell nothing, huh. I have no idea why. I have decided not to ask. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy spent centuries perfecting communication systems. Bioluminescent translation matrices, chemical dispersion nodes, sonic modulators, telepathic relay networks. One human looked at me, decided I was worth talking to, and built a solution from a stolen maintenance panel and some leftover tile pieces. I find this, professionally speaking, worth documenting. He also left his thermos on the station when he retired. It is still in Corridor 7. No one has moved it. I think we are all, in our own way, afraid to.